Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another video of Be the Best DFS Daily Fantasy Sports Talk. My name is Bradford Best, and today is Thursday, November 2nd, 2017, and this will be my NFL video for the upcoming Week 9 slate. A quick recap on me for Week 8. My top scores on the main slate on DraftKings was 129.62. I was able to cash in a little small $3 GPP. My top score on FanDuel was 105.62. That failed to cash in anything. Overall, I did make slight improvements. McCoy, I had LaShawn McCoy, so he was a good play. I missed out on Ezekiel Elliott. I had to change my quarterback plays. I was initially on Carson Wentz, Tyrod Taylor, those guys, but because of the weather in the Northeast, I had pivoted to the Cincinnati Bengals, and I used Andy Dalton and AJ Green. Dalton, he did okay, but AJ Green, he had a disappointing week. Only 27 yards receiving. The plays of the week was definitely came from that Seattle and Houston game. Didn't expect it to be a shootout like that, but Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson, they both had like incredible games, passing over 400 yards. So if you didn't really have too much exposure to that game, it was challenging to cash on this past week. So with that being said, let me get started talking about this Week 9 slate. And starting off with the stack that I like for this week, it's probably going to be popular, and that's going to be Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins. Deshaun Watson is priced at 9,600, and Hopkins is priced at 9,100. It's probably the most expensive stack on the slate. And with that, it can create a challenge for you for constructing the rest of your lineup. But with this matchup that they have versus the Indianapolis Colts, I think it's a stack that you definitely want to have exposure to. The Colts are ranked 31st overall in defense and 31st overall in the pass. Since Deshaun Watson, since he played New England in Week 3, he's had 3 games of surpassing 30 fantasy points. And we saw what he did last week. He's the first quarterback in NFL history to pass for 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, and rush for at least 50 yards in a game. This game is at home, and just with the type of player that Watson is, he's definitely the top play. Could probably very well maybe a cash game play. Of course, for GPPs, you can consider fading him and things like that. But, I'm gonna use him this week. So it's expensive, but him and Hopkins, that's the top stack. I know it's not contrarian, but sometimes I think you just have to try not to make things so complicated in daily fantasy. So I'm just keep it simple like that and go with them as my top stack. Outside of Watson and Hopkins for the Texans, if you want to play some other plays, I think Drew Brees is okay. Last week, he didn't have any touchdown passes. He had a surprisingly disappointing week at home as far as fantasy wise. Only 11.9 fantasy points, but he's going up against Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense that has struggled this season. So, Breeze is at home. He's a little cheaper than Watson. I think he's fine. I don't know about Wilson. I think Washington is a little better defense than the Houston Texans. You do have Josh Norman in the secondary. So Wilson, he did have a great game, but, Wilson, let me look at his game logs. He can be up and down at some points, but with no running game, I guess Russell Wilson is definitely in play again. So let me continue looking at this. Dak Prescott versus the Chiefs. A defense that's 30th overall, 29th versus the pass. Prescott is okay because it's supposed to be if Ezekiel Elliott is suspended, he may have to take a larger role as far as passing the ball in the pass game. So it's a lot of different ways you can go, I think. But for me, I kind of just limited it down to one quarterback. I'm probably only gonna make one lineup most likely, and with my one lineup, it's gonna be Watson and Hopkins as the stack that I'm gonna build around. So I don't want to just go through the quarterbacks just to go through them, but that's the main plays I'm looking at: Watson and Hopkins. Let me move on to the running back position. So the status of Ezekiel Elliott will be big for Week 9. It's big. I feel that if Ezekiel Elliott is indeed suspended for this upcoming week, I think Alfred Morris at 5,600 is a good punt play, a good value play that you can use, especially if you're using the premium price stack of Watson and Hopkins. I think Alfred Morris is like a great play, and that's only if Ezekiel Elliott is suspended. Alfred Morris, he isn't that old. I mean, he came into the league maybe 2012 with Robert Griffin. So I mean, he's still under 30 years old. So if Elliott is out, I think Alfred Morris is a top value play, top punt play, whatever you want to say, especially if you paying you up at other positions. But outside of Morris for value, I think there's two guys you gotta look at, and that's gonna be, Leonard Fournette and Todd Gurley. They've been two of the top running backs in the league this year. With Gurley, the Giants, they're ranked 23rd versus the rush, and Gurley, he's a high volume back. He's fifth in carries and fifth in rushing yards, and they had a bye week, so he's behind 1 week as far as getting his numbers all the way up. But he's just a featured back. He's not really competing with anyone else over there with the Rams, and he also gets involved in the passing game. He's coming off a bye week, so his body should be fresh. So I do like Gurley. But another thing with Gurley, premium price. So with these prices, being so high, you definitely have to find, the right value plays. Leonard Fournette, he's in a tougher matchup versus the Cincinnati Bengals. And one thing that I'm kind of looking at with Fournette, TJ Yeldon had a great game this past week, so he might cut into some of Fournette's usage. But just in general, Fournette, he's shown that he's a top tier running back in the league, and just having a week off, I think he's a fine play. So Fournette, Gurley, I think Miller is okay, 7,500 if you want to go with maybe stacking Lamar Miller with Watson, as part of that Texans stack at a mid-tier price. Again, we saw what TJ Yeldon did versus Indianapolis. Did they? Yeah, we saw did they play the Colts? Yeah, I think the Jaguars played the Colts on last week. Let me go look at that real quick. Sorry. Yeah, they did play the Colts. TJ Yeldon, had 122 yards rushing off 9 carries. So if Miller, if he's healthy, he could have a good game as well. So Miller is someone to look at for at a lower rate. So Gurley, Fournette, Miller, Morris for value, and I think those are all the main running backs I'm looking at. Kareem Hunt, I guess you could play him as well at 9,000. Could be since the Chiefs had a bye this week. Well, they didn't have a bye. They played on Monday night. He only had, but that was against Denver. So this could be a good bounce back week for Kareem Hunt. He could be a good GPP play because considering that bad game that he had versus Denver, a lot of people may be off of him. But for me, Gurley, Morris for value, Fournette, Lamar Miller, and Kareem Hunt. I think those are the best plays at the wide receiver position. The running back position. Man, okay. Now, wide receiver position. Again, we talked about DeAndre Hopkins. He's in play. Will Fuller, I think, he's in play. He got 7 touchdowns on the season. So if you can afford him, he's in play. I'm going to take a contrarian approach. I'm going to plug in Bruce Ellington for 4,600. I know he's not heavily involved in the offense. He's like the number 3 wide receiver. But just for that value, maybe he could sneak up and get a touchdown or something this week. So I do like Bruce Ellington for the Texans. But outside the Texans, let's see. Mike Evans. I like Mike Evans. I think he's in play. He's a top target guy for Jameis Winston. The Saints, they have been playing better defensively, but it's still the Saints. So the wide receivers are capable of having a good game against the Saints. So Evans, solely because of his usage. I'm not interested in Green. He could have a good game, but against the Jaguars defense, who's ranked number 1 versus the pass, they got those 2 good corners. Not really too interested in him. Baldwin, he's going up against Josh Norman, so I don't think that's a positive matchup for him, but you never know. I do like Julio Jones, partly because I'm a Falcons fan, but Julio, he typically plays well against the Panthers. For some reason, he always played good against the Panthers. He had his 300-yard 300-yard receiving game last season was against the Carolina Panthers. But this week, I don't really see a lot of intriguing wide receiver matchups. I feel like you have to kind of just pay up for your running backs, and you have to find value at the receiver position. So I don't know if paying up, I am paying up, but for DeAndre Hopkins. But outside of Hopkins, I think you really have to find that value at the wide receiver position. Ted Ginn Jr., he's a good play, 5,700. That's some good value. He's a deep threat for the Saints. So Ted Ginn, I like him. See if there's any more value plays at the wide receiver position. Maybe Devin Funchess with no Kelvin Benjamin anymore. That opens up opportunities for Funchess. So he's someone to consider. I think that's about it. For me this week, it's going to be Hopkins, matched up with, paired up with Watson. It's going to be like some value plays. Marquise Goodwin, too. I like him this week, especially if Garcon plays, then, Patrick Peterson will likely be on Garcon. The Cardinals, they're only ranked 24th versus the pass. Goodwin, he's a speedy guy. He really didn't do nothing this past week versus Philadelphia, but, it was a bad weather game. So I like Goodwin for 4,800 for value as well. But I think that's about it for the wide receiver position. Let me keep it moving. Tight end position. I like Zach Ertz. I know they're going up against no-fly zone in the Denver Broncos secondary. But the Broncos, they're giving up like the second most receiving yards per game to tight ends this year. Like 77 receiving yards per game to tight ends. They're allowing like the second most fantasy points per game to tight ends, with 14. And Zach Ertz, he's been consistent. He's reached double digits in every single game this season. And, going up against a Denver defense, a lot of people may not want to pick him because of, the reputation of Denver's defense. So I think he makes for a great GPP play, especially at his high price tag. It'll be hard to fit him in cash games, but I do like Zach Ertz, and he's my top tight end for week 9. Ingram for the Giants, he's pretty good with Beckham out for the season. Ingram, he's become like a top target guy. He's got at least 15 fantasy points in the last 2 games. Fair price is $6,300. I do like him. You always got to consider Travis Kelce. He's the top target option for the Chiefs. Let's see who else. I think those are the main 3, the top 3 that you can. The top price guys, they the main 3 if you pay up. For value, I really haven't looked at for value. I know the Texans, they got Ryan Griffin, but he hasn't been that involved in the offense the last couple of weeks. Let's see. Yeah, I think it's just mainly Ertz for me. That's the main guy for me. Any week, you play, you can if you whatever quarterback you use, you can look at the tight end, and that tight end typically isn't priced that high. It's pretty much a value play. But for me, I think Ertz, Ingram, and Kelce, the top 3 price tight ends, they're the top best options. Otherwise, you just have to find value somewhere else. So that's about it for my skill positions. Just trying to find a win. Each of the last 3 or 4 weeks, I haven't been successful in this daily fantasy. But every week presents a new opportunity, and every week can be the week that any of us can be successful. A quick overview of how I'm playing it this week. It's Thursday, things could change, but I'm just gonna try to ride that wave of Deshaun Watson. So I do like Watson and Hopkins as my top stack to build around. Running backs positions, definitely have to pay attention to this news on Ezekiel Elliott. If he's out, I like Morris, for value. And outside of value, I do like Leonard Fournette, Todd Gurley, Kareem Hunt, and Lamar Miller. I think all 4 of those guys are in play. Wide receiver this week, I really didn't see a lot that I like outside of like the Texans guys. But there probably are some plays. It's just what I didn't see when I was building my lineups this week. I think wide receiver this week is a place where you have to just find some value plays, because I feel that you have to pay up at quarterback and running back on this week. And again, I just went over the tight end position. I like the top guys, Ertz, Kelce, and Ingram. They all get a lot of targets, and I think they're all in decent spots on this week. I never really talk about kickers and team defenses, but the kickers and team defenses do make a difference. It can be the difference between winning and losing any week. It's always kind of like a toss-up a lot of the times, because it be unexpected team defenses that do well, and you never know which kicker going to do well. I think you have to kind of pay attention to the Vegas over-under odds when deciding on kickers and team defenses. So that's about it. Thank you everyone for taking the time out to watch this video. I know my videos haven't been that great recently because I haven't been winning, and I do understand that, but that's just part of the game. I'm gonna keep playing every week, keep trying to get better and be successful. But overall, you know what I'm saying, my motto is, I count the wins as blessings and the losses teach lessons. Be sure to follow my brand on all social media. Search that hashtag Hashtag Be The Best DFS. You'll find me on Twitter, Instagram, of course YouTube, and we got a Facebook group that you can join as well. I thank everyone for your support. Wish everyone much success this week, and everyone have a blessed week. And as always, just try to be the best. And I'll catch y'all next week when I put out my Week 10 video. All right, I'm out of here.